Hey guys, today I've got something really special for you. I'm really excited to be sharing an exclusive sneak peek into the upcoming major update. So the embargo has just been lifted and I'm really hyped because there's quite a lot of features which weren't included in the early blog post which we got. And these features will be coming to us in 2 days from this video when the major update goes live. The footage that you'll see in this video is from a test build which was shared to me by Blizzard. I played it on an Android emulator without the HD resources downloaded, and I also had a limited time to test, so expect there to be a few bugs and lag and the game not looking quite as you would expect, but don't worry, this shouldn't affect the release version of the game that we do get. Please also bear in mind that I didn't have access to the full patch notes at the time of recording this video, so there might be even more features coming which I missed to cover, and there might be a few things which I get a little bit incorrect, but for the most part, I'm hoping that most of this does come to us in the major update. So let's start off with the elephant in the room. Obviously, you can see my character looks a little bit different. He's flying around now, but I'm just going to hold off on talking about this for now because I want to start off really strong with showing a feature which I'm personally most excited for, which is the equipment enchanting. So let's just talk to the blacksmith here. Go to services, and we can see here we've got a new feature called equipment enchanted. Before I test this out, let's have a quick look at the tooltip. So it says consume materials, specify an existing magic attribute and replace it. If the item has been enchanted, it can only enchant the same magic attribute again. Each enchantment generates 2 magic attributes. You can choose between the original attribute or one of the 2 new attributes to keep them. Each slot has the same magic attributes you can obtain from acquiring the equipment slot. The type of magic attributes generated each time is the same as the one selected from the enchantment. Each magic attribute has the same chance to appear. Fear magic attributes, which I believe is the eternal magic attributes, and Helliquary boss skill magic attributes cannot be enchanted. Okay. The first 3 enchantments of each piece of equipment consume less material. Alright, so let's give this a go really quickly. First of all, let's pick the item here because this is a triple stat item. So I could see this being used mostly by players to perfect their triple stat item gear. And I do believe that the equipment enchanting will only be available to gear pieces which are maximum rank, though I could be wrong about this. But let's give it a go. So if you didn't know, this will apply to both set items and to legendary items. So you can reroll the magic attributes. You can't reroll the main stat attributes like the strength, vitality, fortitude, and willpower, so those will be locked. But let's just give this a go on this piece here. So for this piece, I have primary attack damage, skill damage, and damage to full life enemies. So what I'm going to try to do is try to get the crit chance here instead of the damage to full life enemies. This is actually a pretty low roll. You can see all of the ranges here for all of the rolls. So for example, the damage to full life enemies, this is actually the lowest roll. So I could definitely improve this a lot. As far as the cost goes, it costs 5 flowing shards and 150 dust. This might seem like a lot for some of you, but we will be getting a lot of different ways to acquire even more dust, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But let's just give this a try and see what we get. So here we go. Only 1 attribute per piece of equipment can be selected for enchantment. Once you selected this, you cannot change it. Do you want to continue? Okay. So let's try this out. What do we get? So, okay, so it shows me the original attribute, gives me the option to keep this, and then it shows me new attribute 1 and new attribute 2. So for new attribute 1, it looks like I've rolled the same roll, which is pretty unfortunate for me. But for new attribute 2, it says damage taken while suffering loss of control is decreased by 10%. So you know what? I'm actually going to pick this, and let's see what happens. So the selected property will be retained. You want to continue? Okay. So here we go. Now I have the new attribute. This looks like a bug because I believe it did say 10% on the previous window. Let's just confirm that. So the range says 5 to 10%, and here it says 1%. I believe this is just a UI bug. So let's just actually try this again because I didn't get the critical hit chance that I wanted and see what we get. So here we go. We got damage taken while moving is decreased by 1%, and damage to enemies suffering from loss of control increased by 10%. So it's kind of strange that I once again got this property available to me, but you know what? I'm just going to change this once again. So let's just go for property 1, the retained property. The selected property will be retained. You want to continue? Okay. And now, unfortunately, I don't have enough materials to do another reroll. If we look at the tooltips again, it says that the first 3 enchantments should cost the same and consume less. And then after the 3, I'm guessing the cost will be a lot higher, but unfortunately, I can't show this to you guys. But the other thing is, you'll notice that the other properties have been locked on this item, so I'm not able to change the primary attack or the skill damage attribute. So choose wisely which property you actually want to change here. I believe that some of the best properties for weapons, for example, will be critical hit damage and critical hit chance. And then for the set items, we can also replace these. So for example, the here I have the damage increased by 8% to enemies below 30% life. I can obviously change this to cooldown reduction, which is really good because cooldown reduction is one of the most sought after roles. So I could obviously get cooldown reduction on all of these items if I had the materials to enchant them. And I could also get the beneficial effects duration on these 2 items, the belt and the boots here. A few other things which I want to quickly mention is that you can actually reroll the abyssal properties as well. So the properties that you can get from Ereban and the Abyssal Verge, these can also be rerolled, and you'll only be able to reroll them to other abyssal essence properties. But as you can see, I have a whole bunch of different properties that I'm able to reroll these to. I can't reroll it to critical hit chance, for example, which is kind of a shame. But if, for example, this dash skill cooldown is not useful for my character, I can at least try to change it to something which might be useful. Unfortunately, in the case of Eternal properties, they can't be rerolled, so I have this pant here with the Whirlwind and Undying Rage Eternal properties, and if I try to enchant this, I'm not actually able to do it, and it says the magic property cannot be enchanted. So as the tooltip says, these aren't able to be changed, as well as the boss Helliquary affixes. The other curious thing that I noticed is that for single magic property items, so something like this where it has just one magic property, the range that you can roll from is not increased. So for example, the maximum roll you can get from a drop from a single stat item for cooldown is 5%, but as far as enchanting goes, I can only roll this from between a range of 2% to 4%, which is kind of unfortunate in my opinion. Maybe this is a bug, I'm not sure, but for now I would stick to enchanting only exceptional items with 2, 3, or 4 magic attributes. The last thing I want to show before I move on from this is that you can actually see the total number of enchantments for an item that you've done. So for example, this item, I've just enchanted it twice on video, so you can see at the top here next to the materials, it says that I've enchanted it 2 times. So once you've enchanted the 3rd time, like I said, the cost is going to increase. I'm going to move on now to something which I think a lot of you are going to be excited for, and something which I didn't expect would be coming in this update. So if we go to set crafting here and we scroll all the way down, we can see that we have a new set item which was introduced, which is the Wildfire Order, and this set item looks really crazy, let me tell you. So for the 2-piece bonus, it says your Firestorm now becomes a wildfire, increasing its damage bonus from 50% to 85%. That's a really nice damage boost. Wildfire also conjures a tornado that drags nearby enemies to its center, dealing X amount of damage to all enemies within the area. I think they're still tweaking this damage number. Cannot occur more often than once every 6 seconds. That's the 4-piece bonus. And then for the 6-piece bonus, Wildfire also grants you Fanning Flames for 12 seconds, causing all of your attacks to deal wind damage, allowing them to trigger Wildfire. Fanning the Flame also reduces Wildfire's tornado's cooldown by 1.5 seconds. Fanning the Flame cannot occur more often than once every 40 seconds. So this set item looks absolutely bonkers, and I can't wait to test it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to test it because I just didn't have enough time to craft all of the pieces, but I believe that even the 6-piece bonus here is going to be absolutely insane. If your class is able to trigger firestorms at a consistent rate, then this is going to be absolutely crazy. As far as how you can obtain these set items, well, unfortunately, there hasn't been a new dungeon introduced, so these items have just been included into the existing drop pool in some of the dungeons, and it's only available to be dropped in Inferno 4. Actually, you can't craft it as well unless you've unlocked Inferno 4 here, so as you can see, it's not available in Inferno 3, but for Inferno 4 and above, you're able to craft it and drop it, and as far as where it drops from the dungeons, the neck piece drops in Forgotten Tower, first ring drops in Tomb of Fahir, second ring drops in Kikuras Rapids, the boots drops in the Dread Reaver dungeon, and the belt drops in Tristram Cathedral. And then finally for the bracelets, you obviously still do have to craft these. These will not be dropping from any of the dungeons. These drops will be added on top of what we already have in the game, so the pool is just going to get bigger. So it will be challenging to farm these, and I recommend that you do save up your wisps so that you can craft these when the patch goes live. Moving on now to the next feature, which I believe has been highly requested by a lot of the community. I want to present to you guys the dormant gems for both 1 and 2 stars. So I'm going to click here. This is the new 1-star gem, the Havoc Bearer, and I'm going to click to Gem Power Transfer. And let's just click here, and now we have the option to actually be able to make these dormant and get the gem power back. This is going to be such a game-changing feature because now we're going to be able to extract the gem power from the higher ranked gems, so this will allow us to test some of the other gems that we'd like. This feature has been added for both 1-star and also the 2-star gems, so let me just show you guys here, as you can see, and I'll just try this out to show you guys. So let's just extract the power here. And as you can see now, I've received the 685 power. And if I go to my bag, you can see that this gem has now become dormant. So this is exactly how it works in the game now. This has just been extended to work for the 2-star and 1-star gems. So now if I want to reactivate this gem, all I have to do is select the fragments here once again and press OK and power infusion. And then just like that, I've got my gem back and I'm able to socket it back in and play with this gem once more. As far as the effects go for these new legendary gems, I'm not going to read through these again. I've already gone through them in my previous video, but what I can share to you guys is the resonance gems which will go inside of these new gems. So for the new 5-star gem, the Golden Firmament, the resonance gems are Starfire Shard, Spiteful Blood, Mother's Lament, Viper's Bite, and Terror of the Comet. For the new 2-star gem, the Mercy's Harvest, the resonance gems are Tear of the Comet, Mossthorn, and Lucent Watcher. For the Havoc Bearer, the new 1-star gem, the resonance gems are Freedom and Devotion and Eye of the Unyielding. I want to move on now to the new difficulties that we're getting. So if you didn't know, we're getting 3 new difficulties added to the game, and those are Inferno 4, Inferno 5, and Inferno 6. For Inferno 4, the recommended combat rating is 42,290, Inferno 5, 44,915, and finally Inferno 6, 46,715. So I know a lot of you guys are curious about that, so I just wanted to share those numbers. For the Helliquary raids, we're also getting 3 new Helliquary bosses. So if you didn't know, to unlock Inferno 4, you need Paragon 600, and you need to also defeat the final crab boss in Inferno 3, which is what we have in the game currently. And then once you unlock Inferno 4, you're going to have access to the new raid boss, which is Vogmarg the Tormentor. So he requires 44,915 combat rating, and then once you defeat him and also reach Paragon 700, you'll be able to access Inferno 5. The last boss for Inferno 5 is called Morgeist the Molten. He requires 46,715 combat rating, and once you defeat him and reach Paragon 800, you'll have access to Inferno 6. And the last boss here is Diosprey Sovereign Shade, which requires 48,915 combat rating. So I didn't want to spoil too much, so I won't be showing the fights for these bosses, but I can let you guys know, at least for the bosses that I've tried, that they seem super fun to play. Moving on now to the Helliquary Gauntlet. So we have 3 new gauntlets which are going to replace our current ones, like I mentioned, Inferno 4, Inferno 5, and Inferno 6. Inferno 4 requires 44,915, Inferno 5, 46,715, and Inferno 6, 48,915. And then as far as the rewards go, for Inferno 4, we get this weapon here, the Ruptured Soul weapon. That looks okay. And then moving on, we have the Ruptured Soul cosmetic, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. Bear in mind that I don't have the HG resources downloaded, so it doesn't look that great on my screen, but it will look a lot more awesome once the game releases. And then finally, the Ruptured Soul portal here. So this also looks pretty nice. Unfortunately, the rewards for ranking, which is going to be the frame portrait, haven't been updated in this build, but we should be able to see what this looks like once the patch is released. If I go ahead and check the leaderboards here, we're also getting a fresh batch of challenge rifts added to the game. So if I look here, we're going from level 350 all the way up to level 400. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play too many challenge rifts, so I'm not able to share the required combat rating for you guys. But I can't wait to also try these rifts out and try to get some of these first clears here. Moving on now to the next hype feature, if we click the dungeon entrance screen here, we can see that now we have challenge dungeons, and these apply to all of the dungeons that we have in the game currently. So if we click the tooltip here, we can learn a bit more about this. So it says that in challenge dungeons, monsters have 500% more life and deal 200% more damage, and dungeon modifiers will take effect. Up to 2 modifiers will be added to the dungeon to increase. The challenge modifiers are chosen at random. For the first challenge dungeon completion each week, players will receive challenges, plunders, chest, which is guaranteed to contain a set item. There will be a random chance that a challenger's plunder chest will drop for each additional run after the weekly reward has been claimed. And then we've got a bunch of modifiers here. I'll quickly look at these as well. So big problem, enemies are larger throughout the dungeon, the player's size is decreased, bosses will continuously grow in size over time until they enrage. Okay, this one sounds pretty hilarious and I can't wait to try this out. I will try to show some gameplay for some of these. The laser, enemies fire beams of energy at the target. Sacrificial power, skills have greatly reduced cooldown but cost health. oh boy, this is really going to be bad for some of the spam builds, like my infinite power build. Maybe I might have to try a different dungeon build for my wizard. Next, bad blood. Enemies may leave behind a pool of blood after death that will slow and damage players. Bolstered, some non-boss monsters have an aura that increases movement and attack speed of nearby monsters and gives them a shield. Rain of fire. Fireballs occasionally fall from the sky, leaving burning areas that will damage the player. Lava eruption. Lava periodically erupts beneath the player. Speedrun. Completing the dungeon within the time limit will grant bonus rewards. Swarming. The dungeon has more normal monsters throughout. S-Class. The dungeon has more elite monsters throughout. Gauntlet. The dungeon has no normal monsters and bosses are stronger. That one sounds pretty funny. So the dungeon's just going to be empty until the boss, I guess. Heightened senses. Monsters sense players more easily and have greatly increased movement speed. Conjurer, some monsters and bosses summon doppelgangers. Okay, this one sounds crazy as well. We're going to have multiple bosses. I wonder if you get multiple drops as well. And then finally, Greed Spoils. We already have this. This is a skip to the final dungeon boss, and the boss difficulty is increased, and bountiful combat orbs drop more frequently. So I believe that the skip to boss will still apply to the standard dungeons, and you will still be able to play the standard dungeons, but I will definitely be testing out a lot of the challenge dungeons and see whether the rewards are worth it. As far as the rewards that you get from challenge dungeons here compared to standard dungeons, you can see that for challenge dungeons, the drop rate is boosted, and also you have a chance to get the Challenger's Plunder chest, and this will guarantee to contain a set item. Like I said, for the first completion of challenge dungeons, you're 100% guaranteed to get one of these, and then for future completions you have a chance. As well as challenge dungeons be available from the dungeon entrance screen, you also have them in the party finder with the random dungeons, and I believe that these will give you the highest chance because you do have the pity drop here for the random dungeons, which is pretty cool. I want to talk about a huge feature which is going to be added to the game, which is called the Seeker's Path. This is just a bug with the naming here, but you can access it from the menu here. So this is the Seeker's Path, and I believe that this feature was added to the game to be able to more clearly show where your character is getting the extra combat rating from. So from your ancestral tableau, from your upgrade equipment, and from your Helliquary levels. And it also shows you the total combat rating that you're gaining, and for each combat rating milestone, you're going to gain a rewards chest here, and this rewards chest contains a huge amount of dust. I believe more than 1,000 dust. So for people that haven't reached level 30 gear yet, this rewards track is going to make it a lot more attainable. Right now for this specific character, you can see that all of my Seeker rating is coming from my upgrade equipment. So this is because my upgrade equipment is at max rank level 30 for each of the gear pieces here. So each gear piece is giving me a bonus Seeker rating of 220, and if you multiply that by 8, you get 1,760. Let's have a quick look at the tooltip here before I explain a few more things. So it says the Seeker's Path tracks accumulated Seeker rating, which is passively converted to combat rating to boost the overall character power and performance. Seeker rating is gained from Ancestral Tableau, Helliquary, and upgrade ranks. Like I said, Ancestral Tableau. So every 300 activity points earned will automatically convert to attributes and Seeker rating. Activity points can be gained by completing Sirengar related content, defense/purge, or by completing activities that award battle points, codex activities with friends, clan, or warband. They can also be earned while doing battle point activities solo, but at a reduced rate. So this is huge news because basically now we can earn warband points running completely solo. You'll no longer need to rely on another player. You will admittedly get it at a reduced rate, but I think that this is still a really good change. The conversion rate of activity points will either be increased or reduced depending on character Seeker rating compared to the server Seeker rating. So that's interesting. I think that this is going to work similar to what we have now with the Ancestral Tableau, having an Ancestral Tableau server level basically. And then for Helliquary, consuming Voidbug Slag to upgrade the Helliquary will also provide Seeker rating. Voidbug Slag can be obtained by salvaging unwanted demonic remains from the Helliquary boss fights. So this is working the same way that what we currently have now. I'm not too sure if we're going to have more levels of the Helliquary because I know that a lot of players, including myself, are already maxed in this, but I would assume that we're getting more levels of this so that we can gain even more combat rating. For the upgrade equipment, it says consume upgrade materials at the blacksmith to upgrade your primary equipment, and you will additionally gain Seeker rating from that. So I've already mentioned and talked about this. I want to talk about the Ancestral Tableau in a bit more detail. So if we click here, it says that every 300 points will be automatically converted to attributes and Seeker rating. You can see that my character Seeker rating right now is 0. I believe that this is because I haven't run the raids with my warband yet. So once you do run the raids with the warband, I believe that this will get activated. And it says the server Seeker rating is also 0. This is just not showing correctly because this is the test build, but I believe that each each server will have a server seeker rating. I'm not too sure how this goes up, whether it goes up by player activity or whether it just goes up by a flat amount like the server Paragon level. I'm not too sure there, and the tooltips don't explain that. And then finally, it shows you the conversion rate that you're going to get. So let's say that your character seeker rating is super high and the server seeker rating is way below it, then you're going to get a worse conversion rate, just like what we get now. So for example, for my specific ancestral tableau, I'm gaining 2 points for each of these attributes here, and obviously that isn't so much, but if you're a player who's new or just started, you will have the catch-up mechanic and you'll be able to get something like 20 or even 30 points per upgrade here. So the really interesting thing to note here is that your activity points will automatically get converted, so you won't have to press the button here anymore. And the other important thing is that activity points now cap at a limit of 300, so you're only able to carry 300, but then these automatically get converted. So now you actually don't have to worry about this cap at all. Every 300 points will be converted automatically, and from what I can understand, there will not be a cap on the amount that you can get per week. So you'll be able to farm these non-stop. Let's say you do dungeons like crazy, you'll be able to farm a huge amount of these activity points, but bear in mind that you will still be limited by the server seeker rating, so that you still won't be able to get a huge amount of upgrades until the server seeker rating is increased. So overall, I think that this system is really cool, and I love not having the cap on the warband points. I think that's also really awesome, but I'm just not sure how much the conversion rate here can be reduced by. I'm really hoping that the conversion rate doesn't ever go to 0% here, so that you're at least gaining always 1 point here. So for the hardcore players that are grinding non-stop dungeons or other activities, I hope that they're always able to progress this by at least 1 point, and we don't have to get to 0 points, because that would really suck. But let's just wait to see how this feature truly works, because I'm really hyped for this, and I'm really hyped to see how much combat rating we can really gain from this ancestral tableau. Another thing which I want to talk about is the solo warband activity. So it mentions in the Seeker's Path that you get it at a reduced rate for solo players. So I actually tested this by doing a solo Elder Rift. So Elder Rifts normally give you 24 activity points if you're running with a warband member, but running this solo, I was able to achieve only 11 points. So this is roughly reduced by 50%, slightly less than 50%, but I think that this is still really good for players who are running solo. And just to mention also that you can team up with friends, clan, or warband. So maybe the extra bonus also applies to friends and clanmates and not just warband members. So this is really great to see. It seems like they're starting to place less importance on the warband, and from what I can understand as well, you will still be able to access the ancestral tableau even while not being in the warband from the Seeker's Path. Another place that you can access the Seeker's Path from is from your inventory here. So this has been replaced here, and you can also access it straight from here. I think you guys are going to be really excited for this next feature here. So if I open my menu, you can see it says available to send next to the familiars, and this feature is going to be the familiar expeditions. So for the familiar expeditions, you have to talk to the NPC here, Nissa, and then once you do that, you can click here on the familiar sent tab. And on the left here, you can see all of my idle familiars, which are currently free, and they're not doing an expedition, so I can send all 4 of these. And these are just my bonded familiars, which don't include my companion familiar. So you can see here that I can send them to Wildfire Sanctum, Shadow Contract, or Accursed Tower. Unfortunately, on this character, I'm not part of the Shadows, and I also don't have any Accursed Tower for my clan. So the only one that I can do currently is the Sanctum, but let's just see how this works here. So if I click this, it says, send your familiars to explore Wildfire Sanctum, completed today 0 out of 1. So obviously you can only complete this once, even if you're running normally, not with the familiar. And it looks like the rewards will be the same as when you run it normally as well. So let's just click the send tab here, and I can choose to send 1 familiar, which is going to make this task require 6 hours to complete. And it says send multiple familiars to decrease the completion time. So I can send another one. This will reduce it to 3 hours. Another one will reduce it to 2 hours, and another one will reduce it to 1 hour 30 minutes. So this is really cool, because basically you can get all 3 of these tasks done. You can either choose to send all of them into one task and get that completed really quickly, or you can either spread them out to get all of these completed at the same time. Personally, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send them all. The only downside to that is that you do have to send them pretty early, so if you're only able to get on later in the day during the reset, you might not have enough time to complete all of these. But as long as you're able to log in kind of early during the day, just for a few seconds, you can get all of these tasks done with your familiars now. So let's take a quick look at the tooltips here in case I've missed something. I'm going to skip skip through most of this because I think I've already explained it. So let's take a look at Legacy of the Hadron. It says limited to 1 time per day. Explore the Sanctum keys dropped by the monsters and the rewards from the free chest. So it will open the rewards from the free chest that you have. Familiars cannot be dispatched if a player has already opened the free chest or retrieved the keys for that day. So that's fair enough, just so people don't abuse that. After sending a familiar, players can still use the keys to open the remaining chests, but the monsters in the dungeon will no longer drop the keys. So this makes sense to me. If you have sent the familiar on the expedition to explore the Sanctum and you still do want to enter and open the remaining chests, you can do that, but obviously the monsters won't be dropping any extra keys because the pet has already collected them. So next we have Purify the Accursed Tower. Summons can be dispatched before the contribution chest is exhausted. So if you don't claim the contribution chest, then you can still send your familiar. And each contribution point can be obtained by 200 contribution points. The progress bar in the map interface provides a quick overview of the tower's contribution progress and the number of remaining contribution chests. After dispatching a familiar, players will still be able to participate in the Accursed Tower purification on their own. Okay, so what I'm understanding from this is that the familiar will turn in once they get 200 contribution points, and they'll keep doing this until they cap the contribution chests. I'm hoping that they are able to cap all 3 contribution chests. At least this is how I'm understanding it. And then finally, for the plot quest, which I believe is the shadow contracts, it says refresh the number of times the shadow contract itself can be claimed. You will receive shadow contract rewards. Dispatches are counted towards the number of weekly bonus chests and will be rewarded when completed. After dispatching a familiar, players will still be able to complete the remaining shadow tasks on their own. So I don't really understand this so well. It seems that there's a lot of mistranslation here. If I had to guess, every expedition will complete 1 shadow contract. It would really be cool if they complete all 3 shadow contracts, but I'm guessing that it's just going to be 1 shadow contract here. Next, I want to talk about the Paragon and Legendary skill changes that we're getting. So if we go to the Paragon menu here, unfortunately, a lot of these are mistranslated or they're not the correct values. So this new tree that we're getting here, we're getting 1 new tree. It's going to be called the Slayer tree, I believe. So it's not going to be called the Brawler tree like what we have here. And these are what the nodes look like. A lot of these are going to be incorrect, so I'm not going to go through all of these. So if you guys just want to see them, you can slow down the video and see how these look. But obviously a lot of these are incorrect, and I will be making a separate video for all of these, but they do look really insane here. So there we go. I've just gone through all of them. You can slow down the footage or pause it if you want to look at each individual one of these. One thing which I noticed, which was kind of strange, is that the bonus attributes you get from this tree are reduced by half. So if we look here, you can see it's plus 10, and here it's plus 5, I believe, but I think that this might just be a mistake and it will be fixed on the patch when it goes live. And then for the legendary skills, we also get 3 new legendary skills, which I'm not going to be talking about also in this video. I will make a separate video talking about all of these, but they also look really crazy. So once again, I'll just mouse over these a bit slower before I move on. Here we go. There we go, and finally there we go. This primary attack one looks super crazy in my opinion, but I will be talking about this in a future video. We're also going to be getting a whole new batch of legendary essences here for all of the classes. I'm not going to go through and talk through all of these because the video would just get too long, but I will be testing these in a future video for some of the classes, and I'll let you guys know what I think. If you do want to read through each of the effects for all of the legendary essences, then you can do this in your own time. I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the pinned comments and you can take a look at them. The last thing I want to talk about for this video is the new Phantom Market that we're getting. So if you haven't seen already, here's the new Phantom Market, and I think it looks super cool. It seems to be based around a Phoenix theme. So you've got the burning cape here, which I think looks really cool, and it's going to have this effect while you're moving around where it drops flames onto the ground. So the recording really doesn't do it justice here, and if we click on the cosmetics tab, we can see that there's also a new feature which has been added where it says you can now customize special visual effects of the legendary cosmetics. So if I click on this, you can see I have the customized effects, and I can actually change both my idle effect and the movement effect. I believe that you'll be able to mix and match these with other Phantom Market cosmetics, which is a pretty cool change. As with other cosmetics, you can also show the helmet and hide the back accessory. So let's just try the helmet hidden option here. So you can see this is how it looks. I think in this case, I actually prefer it with the helmet on. Let's hide the face here of the character. So with this helmet, I think it actually looks really cool. That's about all that I wanted to share for this one, guys. We are obviously also getting the new questline. I won't be sharing any spoilers of the Diablo fight or the new questline, but I have played through it myself, and let me tell you that the DI team has outdone themselves, because this one is definitely one of the best quest lines that they've added to the game so far. I found myself really engaging with it and watching through all of the cutscenes, and that's coming from someone who usually doesn't pay too much attention to the story and always skips the cutscenes. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope that you all are as hyped as I am for the new major update. I always said that I was trying to temper my expectations for the new update, and maybe I was being a bit too overly negative, but I think that this is really shaping up to be one of the biggest updates that we've ever gotten in Diablo Immortal. So for now, I'm going to be signing off, and I'm going to catch you all in my next video. It's probably going to be sometime when the patch actually goes live, and I'm going to be testing all of the new features then. Peace.